Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to another episode of the Diverse Stars podcast, third season. How my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. This is an amazing episode because Denton Tipton boards the mothership to discuss Magma Comix. Now, come on board as we go traversing the stars. Hi, Mr. Tipton. Thanks so much for coming to the Diverse Stars podcast.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Totally my pleasure. So, always start off with a question of inspiration. So, inspire your love for comics and who your earliest influences.
Ooh, earliest influences. When I was growing up, I was pretty young. My mom liked the Batman TV show, so when I was like three, she would put me in front of that on reruns. I'm not quite old enough for the original run. That was about a decade before I was born. But so that kind of started it, and then Super Friends cartoon,
Hmm.
and Batman kind of became a thing. So get Batman comics. Brave and the Bold was the big one when I was little because I always liked all the team ups, and so Jim Aparo became my Batman artist. So Jim, big, and then also that was Star Wars was a thing. May have heard about that one, but like 79 and 80, I was three or four, but like learning about Star Wars, the other kids were
Hmm.
playing it, so I kind of got into that, and then I found the Star Wars comic, and those things kind of really were my touch points as a kid getting into comics. But then from there, I went way deep, so and never got out.
Hmm. Oh, I would say I loved the Super Friends. I think with Super Friends or with Super Powers, the one when Firestorm shows up finally. That
Yeah, yeah, I think that one was later when they brought in the toy line, and yeah, Kirby was doing that, so that's probably like early '80s.
mm,
Yeah,
I would
but
say that's when I became a big. I mean, obviously there was always Star Wars, but for some reason Firestorm always caught on to me. It was something about the Firehead, I think, and the colors of the uniform that just worked.
yeah, yeah, no, it was pretty exciting for a kid. You're like, kind of like that Ghost Rider factor. You got a flaming skull, so you're like, hey, what's going on with that guy's head? And then, nuclear power was a big subject back then. So yeah, there was a lot of intriguing things, and
Mm.
that was late '70s stuff, right? That was Jerry Conway, and
Yep.
um, I'm blanking on which artist started, but because there was a
Well, I know
few
there's
there.
Pat Broderick. He was on there for a little while, and then
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to remember the one right before that. I think it began with an Milgram, maybe something like that. Is that how you pronounce it?
Al Milgrom, probably. I think he touched on about everything, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Some exciting stuff for a kid, you know.
Hopefully someone in the comments, if you are watching this, please tell us in the comments so we know. Feel free. Well,
Right. My knowledge is pretty vast on comics, but I can't keep all of it in there at my
right.
advanced age.
At some point, we need things like social security numbers, how to budget our checkbooks, things like that.
Yeah, well, I have my federal identification number memorized now after filling out, so much paperwork, over the past few months, getting the business all up and up.
So you went from being a comic book fan to now being the owner of a publishing company called Magma Comix. Now,
Yeah, yeah. There's a few steps in between.
so having been in the trenches as a writer and an editor, how does that impact you now as the owner?
Right. Well, Magma Comics, we're focused solely on creator owned. Right now, we might expand as we grow, but right now we're focused solely on creator owned. And, being in the trenches, I worked with all those creators, and so did my editor in chief, Bobby Curnow. We worked, in the trenches with those folks. We earned their trust. We try to treat them well and protect them, and let them do what they do best, is create, make art. We worked on a lot of licensed books as well, so there's an added layer of scrutiny, and but we always like tried to side with the creators because we knew that you don't have comics without them, and be good to people and try to treat them well, and one day, they can move on to Marvel and DC, and
Hmm.
we were at IDW, so it's kind of like the minor leagues, and then they'll leave after you kind of like discovered them, built them up. but that makes you really proud. And then if you've treated them well, they'll come back and say, "Hey, I loved working with you. Let's do something again." And it's everything's about relationships, and how you treat those and maintain them. So I think that was the key for this type of business is knowing what the creators needed and what they needed help with. Um, and a lot of that was through conversation as well as we're prepared to do this because it started out as an imprint to heavy metal, and that didn't work out so well, and then went off and did something else, and now back to this and able to come up with a cool strategy and bring in some really experienced folks to join me, and we were able to bring in some great creators because of that, or relationships, and we've got a really good plan in place, I believe, and we'll see how the market reacts to it, but we're pretty excited about it, and have gotten the buy-in from our distributors as well. So next up is getting the retailers on board, and that'll the big push for that is going on tomorrow at Comics Pro in Pittsburgh. Our marketing and sales director Joel Elad will be there presenting tomorrow afternoon, and telling the retailers what our plans are, and why compelling reasons why they should get behind Magma Comics and support artists.
Now, the other creator-owned company that I'm aware of is Image. And I remember
That's the big one, yeah.
right, and I remember talking to not talking, sorry. Well, watching some of the videos of McFarlane and the others and who were in charge,
Hmm.
they said with something like creator owned means as a company you own none of the property.
Hmm.
It's not owned by you. So at the time, sort of a risk and reward kind of thing. On the one hand, the reward is you don't have to pay for the construction of the comic book. They pay, I assume, for the artist and the work. But on the other hand, um, you don't necessarily own the property. So if they do become a big hit, they can always move them. So from a risk
Hmm.
reward standpoint, how do you approach that as the owner of the company?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know, creators that we haven't signed yet are very interested to hear that, and other creators because they want to see what kind of company we are and what kind of deals we're going to do. And I spoke with a lot of creators, in the lead up. I may have mentioned before, and kind of getting what their needs are, what things that they aren't getting out of other companies, what works best for them, and we're a small company, so we're keeping our line tight and focused. So we're trying to pick and choose our collaborators and our projects, pretty well, and so they all kind of work together. But the main thing is, taking care of the creators because that doesn't happen a lot of times. With a lot of different publishers. Um, Image is, kind of the gold standard of independent comics. Creator owned. But as you mentioned, not everyone gets page rates. That's one big thing. You're kind of on your own on that. They do some marketing, but you have to do supplement that as well. Um, and that's not just an Image thing. There's other publishers that don't quite get behind it. But a lot of them are also interested in like a media play. They want to have a percentage of the project, like you say, if they're going to finance it, and then they'll want to be able to control the media rights, so they want to be able to shop that and whatnot. So I've been trying to come up with a plan that is kind of fair and balanced, and makes the risk reward equitable for each of us. So we do advances for each of our creator-owned comics. We know that they can't live, without a steady paycheck, and if they're having to moonlight and do, another book, that's just going to cause problems. It's going to cause delays for our book. That's going to cause them health problems because they're, burning, the candle at each end. So we want them to be able to, do their book and live on that. So we do offer advances Um, but we also allow creators to keep 100% of the copyright and IP. We do not take a cut of that. I hate IP, but it's a quick shortcut for people to understand what I'm talking about. So they own their property from the start. It's not a some it releases whenever the contract is over. Um, I don't want to go too far into specifics because these are contracts with other people, so I want to respect their privacy as well, but be as transparent as I can. Um, so we don't control the media. We allow the creators to shop that on their own. We have some avenues as well, but it's more of a very equal partnership where they can the more experienced creators that already have those kinds of connections can take advantage of those. A lot of the authors want to adapt their own work, which sometimes gets cut out by if a company owns 50% and they want a deal to get done, they don't want anything that could get in the way of that. Makes sense. But that they want to at least have a seat at the table to be able to try to you know adapt a screenplay, do the adaptive screenplay or work on the video game, whatever medium you're looking to get into. But that those are important things to have sorted out and set up front. And saving all that, they own everything, we finance it, but we split the profit. So they get half of everything, and we get half of everything. So they get a lot more control, they get a lot more ownership. And we're focused on building a sustainable publishing company. We're not looking to start a studio to try to turn all these into movies and TV shows. We want to tell great stories in the comic book medium, and if they want to come to us, or the creators have an avenue, that's just that's gravy. But we need to build a sustainable business on publishing, and not try to bank on selling stuff to Hollywood, or you know take on too much debt to try to help produce them yourself, and take on a lot of more risk. So we're happy to just focus on making good comics and making that profitable so we can continue making them. And anything else is just cherry on the top.
So when you think about what Magna Comics is, or what is a Magma comic, what kind of vision do you have for what that comic book would look like? I know it's multiple creators bring it to you, but obviously because you're going to be indie publisher and there's tons of people like me who would love to write for a publisher, you also have a bit of a choice on who you want to work with, what kind of titles are going to be yours. So what do you envision a Magma comic looking like? What do you want it to be? I mean, are these more ongoing, more limited? Or are we
Mm.
talking about a particular genre? What are you looking at as being what counts as a Magma comic in your eye?
Right. We're mainly focusing, on adult, material. We're just doing mature readers, so that eliminates a lot of other stuff. YA, all ages, that sort of thing, kids comics. Those are great, but there's plenty of people making those, so we're sticking with our niche. Um, pardon. I There's not we're looking for genre fiction, like sci-fi, fantasy, horror, crime, romance even. It's not a huge popular genre in the direct market, but it is still considered genre fiction. And we want to expand the market. We don't want to just cater to what's already here. um, so we want to do that. And beyond that, we're not trying to force any kind of, you know, house style. We're mostly looking for stories, by creators that we like, that, we know can get it done, and, um, stories that we love, and we want to be to tell those stories, and, whatever that might be, and then try to help them tell the best version of that. So we're really looking for, creators with a unique vision, and with something to say. Like, stories. We're all about stories, but we want them to have meaning and
Mm,
resonance with our audience. Otherwise, it's just there and gone, and no one remembers. So
mm,
that's another thing that we look in our books. It's like, for books that we want to publish, is things that stick with us, or things that we you know think say something about the human condition, and specifically, to adults. You know, we're not going to be doing, any high school, dramas. You can do that and have it from a more adult bent, but I'm not, you can get in trouble into that sort of stuff too. So I want to, keep things where we can operate and do kind of whatever we want without having to worry about compromising due to other relationships.
mm.
So like we're not going to do comics that's going to be, have F-bombs and nudity, and then also try to sell you a Disney comic book. It's like those things don't mix, and we're able to kind of focus and not get distracted by, okay, kids comics are hot, let's go do that. Okay, horror is hot, let's do that. We're going to try to keep our offerings, you know across the board, not do all horror, not do all sci-fi, have a nice mix, and from creators, but we're also looking at, finding, discovering new talent, and finding, some new voices out there, and that's really exciting to be able to do. But in our early days, it's hard to sell that sort of thing. If we're unknown and the creators are unknown, it's hard for anyone to take a chance on it. But once we get a track record, and people, realize that we're putting together, really, really, really good stories, that they'll gain our trust, and we'll be able to introduce them to that. And we've been looking at other ways to tap into, new creators, and bring them in. So we're workshopping some plans for next year. So that could be fun and exciting. But right now we're focused on the launch, and getting the copyright, and then figure out what is working, and then and move from there, and see where we need to go.
So, um, another thing that, from a reader standpoint, there's always concerns with new companies. I will say, as someone who back in the day was a lover of cross-gen comic books and got
Hmm.
burned because honestly they had these great stories and then they stopped kind of mid-story. They never completed them because, once again, small company went out of business. What assurance are there that these titles that you're creating will finish, that they will reach their conclusions when, and 'cause obviously readers do want to invest in stories that will, continue, but also at some point not just stop, at mid-story.
Yeah, that's a big problem, and great question. Again, yeah, we've secured funding that will carry us through 3 years. That So we've got a good game plan. We've got, an idea of how we'd like to expand, and in each year. Um, and then, but we've got, a full 5-year plan. Of course, to see where we go after that. But we've got, funding for the first 3 years of projects. So we've had several people approach us about teaming up, and doing different projects together. So that's exciting, and see where that leads. So yeah, so we've secured, the financing for a few years, so we've got a good run. And going back to our titles, we're aiming to build them as ongoings. And we're also trying to make each issue a complete story, because I know a lot of that is missing in periodicals. Uh, it's been writing for the trade, the decompressed stuff, all that you've heard before. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to we're doing 24-page stories instead of 20, which is currently the standard, I guess. It keeps shrinking, but we're going to go up to 24 and try to tell a self-contained story. It's going to continue on, but it's going to be more, 70s Marvel storytelling where there'll be B plots and A plots and uh, or more like a television show. You can go and watch a show and from start to finish you got a complete story, but there are things that carry over and all that and that's a good way to get people to care about your characters and continue to follow them. So that's what we try to do. Is some of the books that we or some of the stories we gravitate toward don't fit into that box. They're kind of finite stories. So we'll be indicating that those are mini series. But for the most part, all our books are going to be positioned to be ongoing series. We're going to have uh, we've got kind of like a 4-issue start, and that still gets us to about 100 pages. So that's basically 5 issues of a standard story, but kind of or a standard trade paperback rather, or an arc. So we're kind of getting there quicker, getting a little more content, and trying to build an audience that way. And if and then we can pick it up with issue 5 instead of waiting around trying to figure out, okay, well, it's going to be a hit. Let's do this. We're going to give creators a break, though. It's not going to be quite like Saga, but similar. We'll take a couple months off, do the trade, and then come back with issue 5. And so that way we'll be able to kind of be sustainable with our creators, keep them being able to keep up with that kind of pace, and we'll be able to see how the sales do and see how the market reacts and if they want more of it, and then we'll be able to react pretty quickly, and then hopefully it'd be ideal that all our books would be ongoing, because I know retailers would love that too, because that would have something where readers coming in every month. They'll try other things. You can build an audience. They don't have to say, okay, well, Principles of Necromancy, Volume 1, Number 1, and then there'll be Volume 2, Number 2, or they might be a subtitle. What's the reading order? We want to, learn, some of the things that's helped propel manga in the past few years. You know, easy consistency. You start with volume 1, you go from there. So we want to keep that simple. We're applying simplicity across the board on things where we can, as far as like our formatting, our publishing strategy, that sort of thing. So it's consistent um, and not only is it consistent, be retailers will know what's coming. It wouldn't be anything out of left field. They know what to expect from us, and it'll help them in their ordering um, and all of that, instead of constant reboots and trying to figure out where your sales are. So we've been listening to retailers a lot as well. I was talking about creators, but because that's where it all starts. But retailers are a very important part. They're the buyers, they're the tastemakers. So we're trying to do the best we can to serve them as well.
Now, you already have quite the lineup for initial creators. Jason Starr, Colin, Jackson Lanzing, and Colin Kelly,
Kel-
a team. Megan Wang, is that
Megan Huang, yeah.
who's working with Steve Orlando. So once again, it's this great lineup that you have here. So how did you get this team together, and how do they exemplify Magma Comix?
Yeah, it kind of comes back to just having previous relationships with a lot of these creators. I knew start our launch book is Principles of Necromancy. That's written by Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly, as you mentioned. Our artist is Eamon Winkle, who is not a huge name in comics, but in other art circles, and Comics will be coming around to him very soon, as soon as they see what he's doing. But it all starts with relationships. I knew Jack and Colin from uh, for, originally David Hedgecock. When I was at IDW, David Hedgecock was at the time, I believe, managing editor or possibly editor in chief. But he had known Jack and Colin from a previous project, and they were huge Star Trek fans. So he's like, hey, can these guys pitch you on Star Trek? 'Cause at the time I was overseeing that franchise and for IDW, and they I'd never met them, hadn't seen any of their work. They came in, they had like uh, it was for the next generation. They had an amazing pitch. They had a really cool idea. It dovetailed into another project that we were discussing with Michael Dorn, uh, Lieutenant Worf. So he was wanting to do some stuff in that world, and I was like, oh well, we could have something really cool. Um, so we um, went went to CBS Paramount with that, and we're like, "Oh, this is great! Wow, this is really cool. This is very intricate." And then, wow, yeah, that could be cool too. And then they're like, "Well, we're working on something that we can't move on any of this." And we're like, "Okay, glad you loved it. We can't do it." And then they came back and said, "Hey, we're doing a new series. It's going to be called Picard, and it's we're like, oh, well, that's going to be great." So we ended up doing tie-in comics with that, but that really scuttled Jack and Colin's plans. But we knew the enthusiasm was there, the knowledge, and the skills to write after we got through the pitch, and it's like wow, okay, let's see what we could do with these guys. And so we kept them on a short list, and ended up they ended up doing the show running on I think it was called season 5, Star Trek season 5 or year 5. um but it was like the fifth season of the original series. So they pivoted from Next Generation and then revived the original series, and it took off pretty well, and then that led to an ongoing Star Trek after I left. So yeah, so got to work with them early on, and see the potential, and give them a good break. And they went on to do great work at DC. I got the Batman Beyond gig, and then they keep moving up the chain. They're getting bigger and bigger. They got Guardians of the Galaxy at Marvel now, and what did they're doing Outsiders at DC right now. I don't think anything else has been announced. So they're great guys and great storytellers. So Bobby and I would just kind of look at what connections we had and reach out to those folks, and started from there, and then develop projects with people we like that do good work, that are good people. So that's kind of going to be our philosophy. That's who we want to work with. You know, we most of us worked at IDW or other publishers for a long time, and we had our marching orders, and we had to do things, and work on things we weren't quite thrilled about, or get assigned things. So it's like or get saddled with creators that we didn't want to work with. So it's like now we're going to have that freedom, and now we're going to have to pay for it one way or the other. So we'll see, but it's fun and exciting, and it's good to some of those folks still remember us, and want to work with us, and yeah, yeah.
Now, another great thing that I read as well is that you're already secured distribution with Diamond. You secured distribution with, I think it was Lunar distribution as
Hmm.
well. So how does that give confidence to the retailers who are going to work or order your comic books, that they'll be consistently coming out to them and that they'll be of good quality?
Yeah, they know Lunar and Diamond are the top dogs in distribution right now. And Lunar's been making a lot of inroads over the years, that since they started back in, I think it was 2020. So they're pretty new, but know the game. But it it's meant to, really let retailers have their choice in how they run their businesses. A lot of them prefer lunar. A lot of them prefer, some of them prefer diamond. It's based on how their businesses are set up, and as we know, each comic shop is very unique, and none of the same. So you don't really want to try to have one way of doing things and hamstring some and benefit others. So uh, basically, like we want retailers to be able to pick their poison and have the freedom. We're going to look at other alternate distribution channels. There's a few up and comers right now that we're looking at, and we're not quite big enough to sell direct to retailers yet ourselves. So we'll probably look at that later on as we build a catalog up. Um, but the main thing is showing them that they have their choice, and we've got a good plan that we've convinced the two biggest distributors to get behind us. We've got a pretty unique strategy on our publishing, where we're trying to streamline things and make it simple for retailers and our uh, fans or readers as well. We want them to be able to you know 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 what to expect from us, know where to get it, and I've got a few good notes on that here I'm going to bring up as well. Kind of give you kind of an overview. What Joel is going to be talking to the retailers at Comics Pro tomorrow, and this will, I'm sure, will run a little bit after that. So we're not going to be blowing up his spot at all, but we're focused on the multi-distributor approach. So they have their choice. Uh, we're offering simple, low-risk ordering, and it's consistent across all our titles. So we're going to have basically only three covers for each issue. We're going to do a main cover, and that's the A cover. It's going to be returnable for at least the first two issues. So that's going to be big for retailers, because that's one of their biggest things is returnability is a really good tool for them to be able to bring in, stuff. We've got known creators, but we're an unknown quantity, so we want to be able to, give them as much confidence in ordering as possible. Um, and so I mentioned three covers. There's going to be the main cover which is returnable. There'll be an open order variant, and that's going to be a markup. It's going to be a $4.99 book. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to do $3.99, 24 pages story. We're going to do an open order variant that's going to be more for like a collector. It's going to have, a consistent artist over the series. There are going to be also cardstock cover. So it's going to be like a little premium upgrade. So that's where you get the $4.99, which is still less than some of the other companies' cardstock covers with 20-page stories. So it's still a nice value there. And then the third cover will be a retailer incentive, which, if a little inside baseball, basically it's called a ratio variant, and you order X amount, you can get one of this cover. That varies across publishers. Like a 1 in 10 is a standard, 1 in 25, 1 in 100 is like, for a really big launch, or, a DC book. But we want to be accessible. So we're going to do a 1 in 5 ratio variant, and it's going to be tied to the open order variant cover. So the incentives will not be mixed with the returnable cover. So that caused problems in the past where a retailer could order 1,000 returnable, get 100 of the variants, and then return 1,000 and then sell those premium covers. It's not that bad. you can audit that sort of stuff and weed out, but it is open to abuse. It's open to abuse, and Diamond stopped doing it for a while because of that. So we kind of came up after consulting with them. We developed this plan to be able to give retailers the choice. If you're a store that focuses on story and you want returnability, you order the A cover. It's a great bargain, and retailers have the risk taken away. The risk is on us. Um, so that's great. And then, excuse me. And then, like you get the 499 variant little upgrade, and then the incentive is for the big collectors, the super collectors that want to track down the cover by. We've got a Walt Simonson cover for Scale Trade. That's the incentive because we know that he is a popular artist in the direct market and beyond. Walter's fantastic. Obviously loved him for years, like everyone else. So we're really excited to have him. So we're putting that as the retailer incentive to help, boost things, give a little premium to retailers, and and hopefully they'll make money on that and order more. And then on the A cover, hopefully they'll sell through and order more, and they'll know what the content is. We're also going to go inside baseball again because hopefully I'm sure your fans are some comic book get into the nerdiness. Final order cutoff is called it is FOC is the nice industry term for it, a little shortening, but that's the point where retailers will lock in their orders. They can adjust them about 3 to 4 weeks before on sale, so we can make sure that they have uh, as many as they need for their customers. So it's with as much information available. So that's pretty close. But what we're going to do is no issue is going to FOC before the previous issue's on sale date, which sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook, but is very, very important to retailers because they need data on how that book is selling before they place orders for the next one. So issue one, they need to see how that sells before they can have a really good idea how many they can sell for two. Now we're going to be having returnability on at least the first two issues, so that cuts some of that risk out. And by the third issue, they'll be able to figure out what their plateau is on the sales, and hopefully we'll be able to inch those numbers up as we go and gain confidence and show the retailers that we're going to hit our dates, and we've got a solid product, and of course the fans, the readers, they need to see that as well, and keep coming back for more and asking for it. So we've been working on some interesting marketing plans, including a free sampler that'll be in stores next week. We're working on, we've got show appearances that we'll be announcing. We're going to be looking at doing some store signings for Free Comic Book Day and for our debuts. So, we're getting, behind our books, and we're supporting them. And by keeping our line focused and to a few books, we're able to give them all the attention that they need and deserve to help them get a chance, and then catch on in the market. And then, if that does well, I think it's a solid strategy and something that could be sustainable, and hopefully people can get behind it.
So when is the first wave of the Magma comic books going to hit stores?
Right. April is our debut month. We're going to be April 3rd is the first Wednesday. We're going to have all our releases aligned on Wednesdays. So Diamond and Lunar is the same. And we'll be doing, store signings on those days. So April 3rd is Principles in Necromancy. And then April 10th is Silicon Bandits by Jason Starr and Dalibor Talajic. So that's our debut. And then those two will be previewed in a sampler that we're giving out to retailers free of charge. The Lunar is going to be sending those out. I mean, they've already sent them out. They should be arriving at at stores soon. Those will go on sale next Wednesday, the 28th. Today is the 21st. Not that that helps the folks at home right now listening, but yeah. So early April, and we're going to debut our issues at the beginning of the month. So we'll be able to do that FOC program where we're releasing books before, or we're not taking orders before the previous issue is released. So that'll kind of slide towards the end of the month as each issue goes, and that'll give creators a little extra time as well on getting things done. We've got a good jump start on things, so we don't anticipate any problems with our release schedule, and we've got it mapped out, or the entire year, so we know exactly when each book is going to FOC and come out, and go to print. So we've got everything mapped out, so there'll be no surprises. And there's surprises, because there's always surprises, but we'll be able to pivot more easily since we'll have a strong base to work from.
Well, like I said, Magnus it sounds very exciting. I look forward to seeing the books because I'm a fan of Mr. Orlando, fan of Mr. Lanzing, Mr. Kelly, fan of Mr. Starr. They've all been on the show as well, so it's fantastic.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
yeah, I've had all of them, and hopefully maybe they'll come back and be able to talk about Magma Comics as well now, which would be fantastic. Mr. Tipton, been an absolute pleasure to talk with you, sir. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, and sorry for doing all the talking.
No worries, no worries.
I like a little more back and forth on these, but I had a lot to say, I guess.
Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, thank you, Jeff, man. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Versus Stars podcast. Please help me battle the algorithms by liking and subscribing. Be sure to return for the next episode when Nick Clyde returns to the mothership to discuss nice Jewish boys on Comixology. Till next voyage, travel on.